Three times before, you have felt the terror. He moves like a shadow, dark and silent. He never utters a word. He doesn't even seem to breathe.
Where the hell's the corkscrew?
He simply, mindlessly, mercilessly kills. But now, Jason's reign of terror is over. Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
You heard that right. The final chapter. And you know what? Looking back at movie history, this is completely false, considering that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, was part 4 of 12, if you count Freddy vs. Jason and the remake. During that era, it seemed that every single one of these came out, it was the last one. Originally, part 3 was going to be the final installment. We did see Jason get beat up pretty bad. He was hanged by the neck, he was cut, he was stabbed, he had an axe shoved in his face, he was in bad shape. But we all know that Jason never stays dead. He simply becomes deactivated until he decides to pop back up again. There's a lot of behind the scenes tales as to why the decision was made to finally kill off Jason. But at the end of the day, money talks. You make these movies, you make money, there's gonna be sequels. But how does Jason come back to life again? And what teens does he terrorize this time before his final defeat? Before we get into that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my Patreon page. If you'd like to help support the channel and allow me to continue creating content like this for all time, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month by clicking on the link in the description or heading over to patreon.com/GamerThumbTV. And for their continued support, I'd also like to thank my current patrons and channel members listed in the description. Let's get into it. To start off, one thing I'd like to comment is how long the intro to the movie actually is. It's not even technically part of the movie. It spends almost 3 minutes showing clips edited together from the previous 3. I get it's a recap of the story so far, but I mean, if people are watching part 4, I think it's safe to assume they've watched the ones before, especially when these movies got a sequel every other day. The final chapter, once it actually begins, picks up right after Friday the 13th part 3. The authorities arrive on scene to take away Jason's body, along with the bodies of 7 teens and 3 bikers, all from the previous film. So they take his body to the local hospital morgue, where we get introduced to Axel Burns, the hospital employee responsible for the morgue, and I always wondered if he was intended to be related to Roy Burns from part 5, the fake imposter Jason. He was a paramedic and had the same last name after all, but that's a story for another time. Axel is that typical sleazy character, the one that's trying to get in the nurse's pants at the wrong time. Very much a throwback to Halloween 2.
Hey, what's the matter?
I have a headache, Axel. For you, I always have a headache.
Oh, I can fix that. Meet me in the cold room. I'm closing up for the night. What do you say? Got one more over there. Real cute girl. Was. Well, she still is.
While on shift, he spends his time in the dark with dead bodies while watching exercise tapes of women bouncing their asses up and down together. Axel could not be more of a creep. I always wondered what the hell he was watching, and it turns out this is an actual workout tape from the 1980s called Aerobicize, which makes total sense because if you look there on the bottom, you can also see the Paramount Pictures stamp on it. Although there is some dispute whether it's the actual workout tape from the movie or just something very similar. If you watch the actual exercise clip from Aerobicize, this bouncing goes on and on for over 6 minutes. The same bopping up and down movements over and over. But Axel isn't just satisfied watching workout tapes in the privacy of his morgue. He also convinces nurse Robbie Morgan to mess around. And that's absolutely disgusting. There's a dead body right there. Or is there?
Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus goddamn! Holy Jesus jumping Christmas
We know by now the rules of slasher films. If you get naughty, you die.
Leave me alone!
And my god, that looked brutal. But as a whole, the kills in this movie are fairly tame. On the Blu-ray special features, there's an entire segment of how much more brutal they would have been. Of course, the MPAA was trying to censor the movie instead of just letting the filmmakers create what they wanted to, so many of the kills were cut away from quickly or altered to avoid an NC-17 rating. If you're gonna make a slasher flick, just go all in. It's really a shame seeing that this was such a problem back then. At least what is in the movie looks great due to the legendary practical effects skills of Tom Savini. It's kind of funny too when the nurse dies. Originally a bunch of blood was supposed to come pouring down the side of her leg, but one of the blood pumping valves broke on the mechanism and it fell down the middle instead, and it looks like, well, that. Use your imagination. And how is Jason back? I don't know. It's never explained. He just gets back up. And he somehow travels to his old stomping grounds to kill again. And here we get introduced to young Tommy Jarvis, the closest that the Friday the 13th series ever got to a Laurie Strode type character, played by child actor Corey Feldman, who when I was growing up I knew him best as the kid from the Goonies. Tommy lives in a cabin with his mom, his older sister Trish, and their dog Gordon. A nice comfortable little life, and this kid is a Friday the 13th treasure. He's awesome, although some of the people working with him didn't quite think so. According to Ted White, the man behind the Jason mask in the final chapter, Corey Feldman had a bratty attitude during filming as a response to director Joseph Zito's treatment of the actors on set, so apparently he was a little shit.
He was a mean little kid. When I say mean, he was very, very active on the set. He wasn't very well-mannered. And when I finally got to the scenes where we were upstairs and I had my hand so close to him that I could have gotten a hold of him.
But at least Corey showed up and did his job exceptionally well. Tommy Jarvis is a regular kid in the 80s, with some quirks added on. The first generation to grow up with video games. He liked spending his days doing some hardcore gaming, while wearing crazy-ass Halloween masks.
Tommy, turn that down.
Mom, I got 98,000.
How many robots is that?
35.
He also becomes a victim of Jarvis family sandwiches.
No.
I always wondered how such a young kid could make such elaborate masks, but he does explain briefly that he just customizes them. Whatever that means, he's got some skills. I find Tommy Jarvis really interesting because it's almost as if he's a young Tom Savini himself, learning his craft, how to make monster masks and practical effects. But they're not the only main characters in the movie. A group of teenagers rented the place next door so they can party it up. You gotta have a group of teenagers to increase the body count as Jason rampages through. And I like this group of kids more than many of the others we've seen pop up in Friday the 13th sequels. A lot of the time, they're just mindless, stereotypical archetypes of characters, which, yeah, most of them still are, but two in particular I found very entertaining. Crispin Glover as Jimbo Mortimer, or Jimmy, and his friend Ted Cooper. Jimmy's upset because he just got out of a relationship, and he's really struggling with it. His pants are about to explode, and he just needs somebody in his life. And Ted is that one friend that constantly gives you advice on girls, making himself seem like a ladies' man, but funny enough, you never actually see him surrounded by beautiful women.
Have to do, and then she wouldn't even take my calls. I mean, can you figure that? What the fuck happened? Let me put it in the old computer. No, I'm serious about this. The computer don't lie. It says you're a dead fuck. A dead fuck? A lousy lay. You know? A dead pecker. Oh, I see. Oh, don't hold it back from me, Doc. I can take it. Give it to me straight. I did not say it. The computer did. Yeah, well, there is no computer. Uh-huh. And there's no Betty either. God, I'm horny.
The rest of the teens aren't anywhere near as interesting, but thankfully the movie does spend a lot of time focusing on Ted and Jimmy. On the way to the rental home, they all get lost and see the grave of Pamela Voorhees, foreshadowing that they're going somewhere they shouldn't be. And they pass by a random hitchhiker with no lines, the first victim of Jason. You know he usually punishes people for going into his territory or catching them doing the nasty, but she was just chilling on the side of the road. There was no reason for this. Wrong place, wrong time, I suppose. The teens get to the house and young Tommy Jarvis goes out to introduce himself, and we get a glimpse of the rest of the teens, which do fit that criteria of being generic teenagers with generic problems. Samantha Lane has a reputation of sleeping with everyone. We really don't learn much more about her character besides that. She traveled there with her boyfriend Paul Guthrie, a guy that likes to flirt with other women. No surprise he's good with the ladies. I mean, look at those outstanding cut-off jean shorts. 80s male fashion at its finest. Her best friend Sarah Parkington is the shy, timid girl that has no reputation at all. But she's curious about her own love interest, Doug Bell, also with them. And that is all you really need to know about these youths. Not much depth to their characters outside of any of that. So it's great that the Jarvis family's in the movie to kind of help add on to the interesting character roster. During their little party getaway, they also happen to recruit 2 other teenagers, twin sisters Tina Moore and Terry Moore. More characters that have zero character development and become the sexual infatuations of Ted and Jimmy. And having the teens rent the house next door is the best thing that could have happened to young Tommy Jarvis. Coming into his teen years, his prime where his hormones are going crazy. At one point they all go skinny dipping and Tommy catches a glimpse, much to his sister Trish's horror. He loves it.
Tommy, turn around. Oh, come on, can I just turn around? Some pack of patooties, huh?
Tommy.
And then late at night, he notices that Sam and Paul are about to mess around, and he has the perfect view. Like any curious child at that age, he starts watching the show, and he flips out excitedly till his mom comes in and ruins everything. Hilarious moments like these make him such a likable character, and besides Tommy being an expert mask maker, he's also a mechanic it seems, a true jack of all trades. On the way back home, Trish's car stops and Tommy attempts to fix it, but the day is saved by a new character, Rob Dyer, that scares the hell out of him.
Rob Dyer.
As far as Trish knows, Rob is a complete stranger, and she gives him a lift to come visit her house. Tommy just drags him upstairs, and their mom has no idea who this grown-ass man that just barged in their house is. And he's in for quite the scare.
Come here, I want to show you something.
I love Tommy. Doesn't even know this man and scares the hell out of him. Rob is the mysterious character. He claims he's there just to hunt, but his actual prey happens to be Jason. He found out the body went missing at the hospital, and the 2 staff members Jason killed were never found. So he's under the impression that Jason's still roaming around somewhere. Turns out that his younger sister was Sandra Dyer, a character in Friday the 13th Part 2, and one of Jason's many victims, so he wants revenge. And then one of my favorite scenes, when the teens are having a party and we get the infamous Crispin Glover dance. What makes this dance so good is how it doesn't go at all with the music that's playing, and he looks like he's having a seizure instead. He's going wild. It's amazing. There's a reason it does look so off though. Crispin Glover actually requested AC/DC's Back in Black and learned the dance based on that song. But the movie soundtrack instead used the song Love Is a Lie by Lion. So this is how the Crispin Glover dance ended up looking. Whoops. And then Short Short's Hairy Legs Paul changes the song to something more romantic and slow, so Ted starts trying to slobber all over one of the twins. He looks like he's trying to gobble her up. And honestly, at this point, I don't know which twin is which. There's the more reserved one and the sluttier one, and that's all you really need to know. Paul's been drinking, so he starts slow dancing with one of them, creating drama and making Samantha jealous, so it all just escalates from 0 to 100. Instead of having an argument like a normal couple, she decides to run outside and take off her clothes and goes swimming out to a raft in the middle of nowhere to coax him to come after her. In the dark, alone.
Screw you, Paul.
And because of this scene, Judy Aronson, who's playing her, developed hypothermia from being in the freezing lake too long. And Ted White, although he played her murderer in the movie, was actually a real-life hero, threatening to quit if they didn't give her breaks out of the lake in between takes. Apparently Ted White and the director had a hostile relationship through the whole production. Paul, realizing that he's a douchebag, said, "Man, I should probably go check on my actual girlfriend and make sure she's okay out there in the wilderness." So he takes his clothes off as well and goes swimming towards her and, oh, spear through the balls. Easily one of the most painful looking Friday the 13th kills of all time. Did you really have to go through the man's unmentionables? Well, that's 2 teens down. And Jason's rampage does not stop from here until the end of the movie. Back at the house, ladies' man Ted has failed in his quest to secure one of the twins for himself. She's more worried about her sister, the slutty one, Tina. She was rejected by Paul, so she ended up just deciding to sleep with Jimmy upstairs, instead sending her sister away. But don't go outside alone, Jason is on the prowl.
You slut!
It all really goes in fast forward from here. They're getting off one by one. Even Mama Jarvis gets it. Oddly enough, the movie doesn't make a huge deal out of this moment. We're used to seeing horny, drug-using teenagers getting destroyed by Jason, not a responsible mother figure. So it's kind of weird that they chose not to show what happened to her. She just vanishes for the rest of the movie. There's actually an alternate ending sequence where they do find her dead in a bathtub, but the audio's been lost to time with that scene, and it wasn't in the final version of the movie. Upstairs, back in the house, Tina and Jimmy just finished having sex, so he's all giddy that he got laid while his friend Ted made fun of him beforehand.
Check it out. Why don't you run this through your computer, teddy bear? Hey, congratulations.
But when you have sex, Jason knows.
Ted, hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
I understand that looks very painful, but I kind of feel like that could have been easily survivable with some broken bones, cuts, and bruises, but I don't feel that would have killed you. Seems very tame compared to the usual Jason standard. Meanwhile, as the kills are mounting, Rob reveals the truth behind his mission there, while Trish is looking for a missing mom, and Tommy's in the house alone. Oh, and I almost forgot about Sarah and Doug. They're also upstairs taking a shower together, preparing for a romantic evening of their own. And you might think that I'm rushing through explaining how each of these kids die, but it really does happen that quickly in the movie. Once Jason gets started, he's going full force. Ted is alone by himself downstairs. Jason stabs him through the head. All the teens are dead, and the Jarvis siblings are the only ones left running for their lives from Jason. Oh yeah, and there's Rob too, here on his quest for revenge. So you'd think he'd play a huge part, but you'd be wrong. He literally accomplishes nothing. Trish, still worried about where her mother is, goes to the house next door, and she's the character that gets the traditional spooky haunted house treatment. The character that discovers all the bodies where Jason has conveniently placed them in order for someone to run into them one by one. Jason literally took Jimmy and placed him on the outside of the door, hoping that somebody would open the other side and get spooked by him. With Tommy and his sister the only ones left, the finale of the movie is a duel. Tommy runs away for safety, and Trish and Jason just go at it. Jason has had enough of people running away from him. For his final chapter, he was going to show them who's boss. Corey Feldman has also said that in this scene right here, his face was showing genuine terror. They actually had a countdown going, and Jason was supposed to show up and grab him, but he waited till sometime after the countdown to actually pop up, creating a genuine jump scare captured on film. And Trish is hardcore. She grabs a CRT monitor. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you know how heavy these are, and she slams it into Jason's head. He is pissed off about it too, and I love how this movie has Jason running. So many people that played Jason gave him different body language, and each one's recognizable for their own reasons. Where, for example, Kane Hodder was usually very slow and imposing. Ted White as Jason was very agile and quick. And once again, someone goes flying through a window. Like I said before, it's survivable. And I almost forgot about Gordon the dog. He went out a window too, in a really quick scene. I usually hate when they kill the dogs in these things, but honestly, Gordon looked fine. Looked like he was happy to jump out. But the battle isn't over. Trish is still being stalked by Jason. She's slashing at him, she cuts his hand right down the middle, she's swiping at him, she is not going down easily. And for the finale, Tommy shows up to save the day, and he looks like a madman. I always thought he looked terrifying when I was a kid. They could have shaved Corey Feldman's hair for real, but his agents thought it would limit his casting opportunities later, so instead they decided to use a bald cap. And I mean, it looks as good as a bald cap can look. He was upstairs cutting his hair to look like Jason as a kid, from a newspaper clipping that he saw, and it messes with Jason's head. I'm not sure why he knew that would work, but so be it. And we also see Jason's face, as we always should by the end of the movie. It is grotesque, as it should be. Awesome makeup and prosthetic work by Tom Savini. And Jason's finally dead, but Tommy Jarvis isn't done yet. He doesn't take any chances, and he annihilates Jason. In real life, Corey Feldman was hitting sandbags and pretending it was the director of the movie. Hilarious and yet uncomfortable and brutal. A glorious end to the story of Jason, for now. The end of the movie is where the studio was like, wait, this might make money, let's leave it open for a sequel, maybe. Trish is in the hospital, she's worried about Tommy, having gone through such a traumatic experience as a child. She gives him a hug, and he just glares at the camera. This was definitely them toying with the idea that Tommy Jarvis was going to be the new Jason. And you know, I find that when movies used to do this idea all the time, they never really pan out. Halloween 4 tried doing the same thing with Jamie at the end, wearing the clown outfit. It made it seem like she was going to be the next Michael Myers. Nothing happened with it. It ended up going right back to the same formula over and over again, and that's exactly what Friday the 13th did. Tommy did not become the next Jason. Which, funny enough, Jason Goes to Hell actually takes that same idea with Jason kind of jumping from body to body, but that was a super weird movie. Again, another story for another time. But that's it for Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I really hope you guys are enjoying Monster Month so far. Let me know in the comments down below if you are. And just in case Jason is ever around, stay away from windows and keep a bald cap on you at all times. Catch you guys later. Since you made it to the end of this video, I assume you enjoyed it, so why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any new content. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, links in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can join my Patreon or become a channel member. This is Fabian, I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.